Welcome back to the On the House podcast. I'm Alex Berlin here with Rochester Homes, and today I'm interviewing Chris Bandy with Indiana Pro Inspections. Chris is a home inspector. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so a lot of people have been asking us to have a home inspector on the show. We've done, bankers, and we've done, realtors and people who are just involved in the home buying process. So home appraisers and home inspection is obviously a big part of a home buying process, whether you're talking about existing homes or new homes or whatever. So just generally, tell us a little bit about how you got in the home building industry at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of what introduced me to the whole inspection industry and the home industry. Growing up, I helped my dad flip and remodel houses.
Okay.
So that's kind of what got me interested in doing this. And from doing that, I helped him doing that all growing up. Once I became an adult, started flipping houses and buying rental properties and things like that. So just from being on the investment side of things, people were having home inspections on the properties I was selling.
Sure.
So I saw there was a market for that, and it was something that interested me. So that's kind of what got me started in on that path, and just kind of, researched and saw what the inspection industry was about, and saw it was a great need for home buyers.
Yeah, that makes sense. Man, home flipping's not easy. Constantly remodeling has got to be tough.
It's definitely easier building a new construction house, I think, because you're not going through tearing everything out and just
the surprises.
Right.
Never knowing what you get into.
Absolutely.
I bet it was really good training for becoming an inspector, though, because you know what to look for behind the walls.
Absolutely, yeah. Which obviously you can't see behind the walls.
Sure.
But it's I learned a lot doing that process, and really helped me in what I do today.
Yeah. Off the top of your head, can you think of an instance, like the absolute worst flip you got yourself into? Just something that was way over your head?
No, I've been pretty lucky, really. I've been, I was pretty careful on what I would buy.
Okay.
But, there's definitely surprises. There's always going to be surprises.
Sure.
You start tearing into walls, and you find termite damage and just stuff that you just don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you still do some of that?
I'm not currently doing anything right at the moment, but still actively looking for houses to flip and buying rental properties and things like that. So
that can be really fun too. I know that, so I can understand why you got in there. So once you decided, you saw the need for home inspection during the buying process and decided to get in. How do you get started with? How did you start your business? How did you start yourself as an inspector?
So there's 90 hours of courses you have to take.
Mm-hmm.
You can either do that online, or you can go take pretty much a 2-week, course, and then you have to pass a 250 question state exam.
Okay.
Once you pass the exam, show them proof of your liability insurance and those sort of things, and then you become licensed.
You're in.
So
part of the club.
So
what's the exam like? Are we talking like building codes? Are we talking building science? Are we talking
it's not
practices?
It's not really building code related, because I'm not a code inspector, but it's more building science, and it just goes over electrical systems and HVAC systems, plumbing systems, and just there is some code stuff in there, but it's not strictly code related.
Okay. So I'm buying a home. I'm going to get a mortgage. I have to get a home inspection in most cases. Is that right?
No, that is kind of a common misconception.
Okay.
So there are no loans out there currently that require a home inspection.
Really?
Yes. So there are, like if someone's getting a VA loan, they require a wood destroying insect inspection.
Okay.
So for like termites, powdered post beetles, carpenter ants, and carpenter bees.
Okay.
And that's something I'm also licensed in. So it's a completely separate license you have to get. So I do that. That is required by VA loans, and I think that's the only loan that requires that.
And I'm shocked other loans,
you would
they
think,
seem like they're so hell-bent on making sure their investment's taken care of, which I understand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just shocked they don't make it earmarked that you have to go do that.
Right. I would prefer that they did.
Sure.
It would be better for me, but you would think. I mean, you would think they would want to even protect their investment even more over. I mean, they require the appraisal,
Sure.
all that process, which obviously is required so that they're not over, loaning on those properties and whatnot. But
sure. But anybody can go remodel a home, So I would think,
right,
especially if it's a building permit's been pulled on the house between one buyer to the next, you think they'd want a licensed professional to get in there because you can do.
Yeah, I see a lot of bad hack jobs that homeowners are do the repair or just Uncle Joe comes and
Sure.
For a case of beer puts the roof on or whatever, and so there's it's definitely something that I would like to see happen in the future is that banks require a home inspection, but I don't know that'll ever happen.
Okay, so the bank doesn't necessarily require it, but most homeowners know, or realtors maybe suggest to go get one. So who calls you? Who enlists your services?
So the majority of the time it's the home buyer.
Okay.
From time to time, their realtor will call me, but that's kind of a sticky situation there as far as the realtor just can't pick
Okay, I got
the buyer's inspection because liability reasons, I guess. But from time to time, a realtor will call me and hire me for their buyer because their buyer has said, okay, go ahead and call this person.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's the home buyer. From time to time, I'll do a pre-listing inspection. So a seller will have me come out before they list their home for sale.
Okay.
And that can be a benefit to them so that they can address any issues that a home has before they go to sell it and have issues with deals falling through or anything like that.
Yeah, I bet that really kind of increases the potential buyer's confidence if they see, hey, this thing's been pre-inspected.
Right.
I know I'm not going into a total fixer-upper.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of times the buyer will still have a home inspection on that home. They'll just get a second opinion.
Makes sense.
Just because for a home inspection is really not that much money in the grand scheme of things of a home purchase. If you're spending $200,000 on a home, $300 or $400 is really not that much money.
Yeah, that's cheap insurance, I would say, to get a certified professional in there. I've heard of people, getting Uncle Joe for that same case of beer to come back in and be the inspector, and versus having a certified professional in who's got know-how of carpenter bees, like you're saying, or other wood destroying insects. So they get a hold of you, customer or potentially realtor in some cases, get a hold of you and say, hey, come do my inspection, and now what? You're going to go in, you're going to spend how long in the house typically?
Depending on the home, anywhere from 2.5 to 4 or 5 hours.
Okay.
I mean, I've spent a day and a half on an inspection, but we're talking, a 13,000 square foot house. So the average size of home is going to be 2.5 to 4 hours.
Okay.
And how that process looks is, they contact me, we schedule the inspection. Generally the home buyer has a time frame they have to have this inspection done by. So, their contract gives them usually 10 to 14 days. I've seen as little as 5 days, depending on the market. So they've got to be pretty proactive on hiring me to get me out there so that I can go do the inspection, get a report to them, so that they can give an inspection response to the seller if they want to ask for repairs or renegotiate for money off the property for repairs or anything like that. But how that process looks, I go out to the property and basically inspect everything from the roof covering all the way down to the foundation.
Do you have like a starting point or a checklist? It seems to me like I'm just running through that scenario in my head. I'm like, I walk out to this 2,000 square foot house. I'm just like, where do I even begin?
Right.
So
it's I guess my flow through the inspection process has changed from when I first started to what I do now. You kind of learn what systems to do first and kind of the process of doing that. But generally, in the summertime when it's warm outside, I'll go ahead and just start with the roof, inspect the roof, and then inspect all the exterior. From there, I go inside. I'll turn all the water on in the home, let it run for at least a good 30 minutes.
Okay.
That gives water a chance to run through the plumbing to check for leaks.
If you see any leaks,
and then also kind of try to overload the system, because how often are you going to have all the water on your home running at the same time?
Oh yeah,
not very often. So,
yeah, and you could even, I've installed faucets before where after running it for a couple minutes, no problem, I'm done, and then here I am 30 minutes later when it's been running for 20 minutes while doing the dishes, and now I see the system overloaded is going to leak.
Right, exactly. So while that's running, I start looking at the electrical system. I go ahead and turn the furnace up while I'm doing all that, so it's running while I'm doing that. So, and then so look at electric system, plumbing system, heating and cooling system. From there, I check all the appliances in the home.
Just normal function.
Normal functions of things.
Run?
Biggest things there is dishwasher, because they can leak.
Yeah.
Washer and dryer. Mainly I'm not concerned about the washer and dryer. It's just that it's got to drain to something.
Yeah.
And so I want to run water through that, and the supply lines going to it as well. From there, go through the interior of the home, checking windows, doors, and kind of more aesthetic things.
Okay.
Which is not really the major key part of the inspection. The biggest concerns are the major components, but then lastly, go through the crawl space and attic spaces.
Sure, check the foundation as best you can.
Right.
Okay. Do you feel like there's a common area where most homes are failing? Is it mechanical systems? Is it roof systems? Or is it just totally all over the place?
I would say on newer construction stuff, I'm not finding a whole lot of structural issues. On older construction, I'd say the biggest thing is, older homes have generally had several systems replaced. It's had multiple different HVAC systems replaced through the years, and several different roofs, and so through doing that, people are not always hiring the most qualified people to do that.
Sure.
And so I find a lot of roof issues, just the not properly being installed. A lot of issues. I would say that the big key areas are crawl space and attic spaces.
Are they?
And those are probably where I find the most issues. Whether is
that like moisture related, or
really, I think the biggest thing that really creates a lot of major issues with homes is moisture related. Whether it's a roof leak or just water intrusion and the crawl space being damp all the time. And if it doesn't have proper ventilation, it's going to have mold, and it's going to create wood rot and just all that fun nasty stuff.
Yeah, which is why a lot of the codes are pushing to have the whole house ventilation systems and kind of get away from that as your home ages.
Right.
Yeah. So then, so you've done your inspection, and then you're going to provide, like you said, some kind of inspection report back to the homeowner, and that's going to have a list of problem areas, potentially suggested fixes.
Right. So, my reports, they're super detailed. They're broke down by system.
Okay.
So there'll be a roofing section, an exterior section, and so on. There'll be a picture with descriptions of any defects or maintenance issues.
Yeah, you're taking pictures of any problem areas that you see as you go through, and that's
right. And that gives my client a visual, something to look at in the report, so that they're not just reading a sentence and they have no clue what I'm talking about. And so from there, I'll just describe what the issue is and just recommend repair by a qualified electrician or roofing contractor, or whatever the instance would be.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So is there any time you can, or a certain house you can think of that you walked in and just like total failure? Do you ever get to the point where you worry about structural soundness? Have you been in that kind of build yet?
Yeah, absolutely. I go in homes that have major termite damage or powder post beetle damage, and I can literally stick screwdrivers straight through floor joists and just
Really?
So you see, and that's usually not on real new stuff.
Yeah.
You're going to see that on 100-year-old homes and older homes. But yeah, definitely issues with that. I mean, foundation issues from there's been a lot of hydrostatic pressure and it's caused big bows in walls and just things like that. So there definitely find some structural issues from time to time. A lot of electrical issues, a lot of roofing issues, and
those are your big red flags area when you run into that kind of stuff.
right. Yeah.
Unhappy homeowner once you turn in that report.
yeah. I from time to time will get a homeowner call me and is not real happy with what I've done, but
you're just reporting the truth. I mean,
right. I'm I'm obligated to my client, which is generally the home buyer.
Yeah.
And I'm out there to provide them with as much information as I can about the property so that they can make an informed decision on, purchasing, generally the most expensive purchase of their lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, obviously, we sit here as Rochester Homes. You know what we do. We build homes using modular construction. And I know you've been through our homes in the past doing inspections and stuff. So I guess, for our listeners, tell me the differences, if you can, between our homes, built modular construction, and a site-built home. Do you look for something different? Are you, I would think you're aware of what you're going into before you do an inspection. Tell me a little bit about your mindset.
Right. I'm aware going into it that it's going to be a modular constructed home, just from, looking that information up before I arrive there.
Sure.
I'm really not looking... my inspection process is the same.
Is it?
I go into it, I could go into it without knowing it's a modular, and I'm still going to do the same process.
Yeah.
Whether it's a site-built home or modular.
Okay.
Because, it's a modular is built to the same standards as site-built homes.
Thank you. Not everyone knows that.
Compared to HUD homes, which are completely different. So,
exactly.
But no, I'm still going through. I don't find more issues with modular construction versus site built.
You're just treating them the same.
I treat them the same.
You're looking for foundation, roof, structural soundness, aesthetics, and you're just taking care of your home buyer, making sure they are getting a sound product.
Correct. And I will say a lot of home buyers could, if the realtor didn't tell them it was a modular construction, they could walk through a modular and not know that it's a modular.
Mm-hmm.
Until myself, I know when I get under it or get in the attic, there's a few key things that are done a little differently.
Sure.
As far as hinged trusses and things like that tell me it's modular. But and especially with Rochester Homes, you're using a quality materials.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times with your windows and different things like that, compared to some of your competitors, I would say maybe don't use as quality materials, but you're going to have that with site-built homes too.
Sure. Yeah, different levels of construction,
right.
Whether someone's totally focused on affordability or totally focused on custom quality. And
right.
Yeah, I totally understand that. So, no, I appreciate you enlightening us here today on mainly the fact that you're going in as inspector, mm-hmm. and you're looking at, once a home's on a foundation, you treat it the same no matter how it was built. So that's interesting. The other thing I found really interesting is that the banks aren't really requiring it. So, to anybody who's thinking about buying a home out there who's listening to this, call Chris, because a home inspection can really point out some things that maybe Uncle Joe wouldn't be able to find, from a trained professional. So I think that's all I got for you here today. Thanks for coming on the show. I got you a T-shirt there to take with you as a large parting gift there. And feel free to take a second to tell us, how we get a hold of you, how we reach your business, and how customers can use your services.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anybody's interested in my service, they can get a hold of me by contacting me through phone. They can call me at 765-337-3323. Call or text works. Or on my website, inspectedbypro.com. They can do an inspection inquiry on there. So, but yeah, I do mainly buyer's inspections, but I do thermal imaging, wood destroying insect inspections, water quality testing, things of that nature.
Okay, I didn't even know thermal imaging was part of it, but somebody's got low insulation in a certain area of the house. You could find that out during your inspection process, and they could kind of beef that up before they go in and spend their money heating and cooling the home.
Correct.
Oh, that's interesting too.
Yeah, and that's not all inspectors do that.
Yeah.
So I've got a separate certification for that, and it's really a added benefit. I don't charge any extra money to do it if I'm doing the home inspection. If somebody wants me to come out just to do that, I'm obviously going to charge to do that, but it's really an added benefit to.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm buying a new house and I can get somebody with a thermal imager to come out and tell me, hey, check this cavity of your wall, or, I'm sure you hit the attic too. Mm-hmm. You got some low areas in your attic, super low cost to go in and fix that. And then I'm going to spend less money heating and cooling my house and be energy efficient. I'm going to take advantage of that all day, especially if it's no more money on top of the normal inspection fees.
Right, absolutely, yeah. And it's actually a couple months ago I inspected a brand new construction home. It was, nobody moved into it yet. And there was, I would say, probably a couple 100 square foot attic space that had absolutely no insulation in it at all.
Really?
It was, I guess, I don't know why, but maybe it was a little harder area to get back to. The insulators just didn't do it. I don't know. But so that home buyer was happy that they, had a thermal imaging done at the time, because that can lead to, obviously efficiency loss.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they would have seen it in their bills, and instead of having to pay for themselves, I'm sure they were able to go back to the seller and say, hey, this is a major oversight.
Yeah.
Not doing any insulation in a new home is a pretty big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Well, neat, man. Well, again, thanks for coming on. People who are listening, call Chris at Indiana Pro Inspections to get your inspection if you're anywhere within about an hour of the Rochester, Indiana area. And thanks for listening again to On the House Podcast. You can find us anywhere that podcasts are done, including iTunes and where we're hosted on Spreaker. Thanks, and hope to have you back again.